me the fáilte. This is Siobhán, the Celtic Empath, and I am happy to say that I am getting around to putting up my next video. And as you may have guessed, or maybe clicked on this video because of the title, that it is a catch-up. I want to talk a little bit to energy work, kind of what's happening energetically, what's going on at the moment. And I'm also going to bring in Celtic mythology, so I'm going to go down a little bit down that road. I want to explain and bring a few things together about Celtic mythology and the connection relationship it has with our development of our culture and with our psyche, and in relation to the divine feminine, what that actually perhaps means within the Irish culture, the Celtic culture. And so bringing that into our divine sense of sovereignty. I'm going to connect that then into a channeled message that I've received from Scotia. And that is in relation to the previous video that I have done nearly 4 weeks ago. So I'll put a link for that below. So welcome here, and that's kind of my introduction. To find out what I'm talking about in relation to Scotia, who is a pharaonic queen who's connected to Ireland, that you will need to look at the other video. That was a soft introduction to where I'm going with this, a body of work that is creating for me energetically. So I am Siobhán, the Celtic Empath. I practice R.A.A.H Hypnosis therapy, past life regression therapy, and R.A.A.H Reiki. Amongst many other things, I do oracle card readings. A lot of my work is what I would just call or describe as energy work, basically, in a nutshell, quite simply, working with energy. The latest part of the work that I'm beginning to getting the nudgings from guides, from spirit, to talk more openly about now is a lot more of my spiritual side of the work and the channeling type of work. So this video is going to be a little bit more woo, whereas the previous Scotia video was slightly maybe more historical. So it gives a good basis to where I'm going. And I do like a bit of structure, so that is like the male energy in me. I do like a bit of structure. I like to go somewhere. I like something to have a point, an end point, so it's not just all woohoo and woo stuff. So because science is relevant in the fact that it can provide us with certain information and clues and dating and whatnot. So science and archaeology is important, but science is, in my opinion, is still only catching up with what we have known for ages, for eons of time. Lots of things that science still can't explain, may never be able to explain to their own satisfaction of explanation. But I do like a bit of historical sort of information to kind of inform what the work that I'm going with here, even if it is that I'm going to be talking about mythology, but the basis of a lot of Celtic lore and spirituality coming from mythology as well. So if you think you're interested, stay tuned. I'm going to try my best to get all of this information across. And today I'm in quite a serious mood, I have to say. I'm feeling very serious. Yesterday I had 3 failed attempts at recording this video. And the first attempt I was in a really happy mood, high mood. And then it just didn't work. It didn't come together. The information wasn't solid. So, and I do want this to be a bit more informal as well. I don't want to have just some 10-minute really fast kind of, here's a load of info, facts, blah 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 blah. So I like to have a bit of flow with the structure, with the information, with researchable information as well, that for you as the person, the viewer who wants to engage with this content, that there is actually a basis for a lot of the things that I'm talking about here as well. Okay, so to get into it, and I'm trying not to be like, you know, so serious that I'm like constantly having to look at the camera to talk about stuff, because it's just not real life. It's just not how it works. And you can only script and plan out so much anyway, and then you have to allow for, you know, the flow and for some naturalness as well of the personality to come through. But in relation to my serious side, being a Scorpio, oh my God, what is going on? Like, how is everybody dealing with the healing energies, the planetary alignments, astrology, whatever it is that you know, kind of connect into, or whatever systems that you like to use. The planetary alignments are definitely congruent to the experience of energy. There's a kind of nice symbiotic relationship, you know, like, do I plan all of my entire life and every day around a solid structure of astrology? No, I don't. But certainly there's elements of it that is very real, or seems real and validating to the movement of planets and the effect and influence that they seem to have on us, which is based on mathematical structure. I really don't know if mathematical structure is really very valid sometimes. A geometrical structure to me seems more instinctual, but anyway, I'm going to stop there. So there's like healing stuff going on. There's like major healing stuff, which is why I'm much more in a serious vibe today. Yesterday I was feeling a lot more playful and fun. My star sign even said that I should do something on social media and let my personality shine through. And I was like, oh, okay, that might work. And it didn't work. So I was like, oh, whatever, it didn't work. Today I'm feeling more solid in my structure. I'm having a good hair day, so I was thinking I should take advantage of that. And here I am. So maybe it's come together better. I don't know. But either way, however you found me, whether it's through the pharaonic Egyptian stuff, which has roots, deep roots to Ireland, and our dear Queen Meritaten, or Scotia as she is known, who is reputedly buried here in Ireland, down in Kerry. So my end goal message is to actually bring through an overall message in relation to women, womb wisdom, and women, people who are basically are the containers of a womb. And that is a very important part of a channel message that Scotia is bringing through to women. It doesn't mean that men are exempt, or that men are excluded from the benefit or the effect of the message that Scotia is working behind the female energy in order to empower it more throughout, now, not just Ireland. And so I will kind of explain more into that. But so, not to go off point, Scotia was a queen. So this is what I want to talk about. So I'm going to start with sovereignty. What is sovereignty? And in relation to Ireland and Ireland's original history. And Ireland's original history has had the original history hasn't been taught to us. So it's quite hidden in books. So you have to do a lot of researching to start to look deeper behind what we are being told in our educational systems about history. We're being given nice fluffy stuff. Well, not so fluffy, some of it is quite horrible, but we're being given certain stories and narratives. So Irish history is no different, and it's actually worse, because Irish history is actually, in my belief, the root of a lot of things. It is quite a foundation root for a lot of the basis of histories of other countries and the development of other histories and cultures. And so I am going back more into ancient times here as well. We're going backwards into more the age of dinosaurs, you know, like the origins of people, the origins of Earth. We have a deep history here connected into magic, myth, going back to the Tuatha Dé Danann. And so we're talking, okay, back to thousands of years BC, and all of that information, for example, the Tuatha Dé Danann, is now back into myth, right? So it's part of our mythological history. Part of the Tuatha Dé Danann lore as such, and coming out of the Tuatha Dé Danann into the Celtic lore, and me being the Celtic empath, of course, I have a particular connection to this part of history, and us being called and referred to as Celts. We operated on a principle of sovereignty in Ireland, and Ireland was actually referred to at one point as being the sovereign state, one of the many names and references that Ireland actually did have. And even the name Ireland, of course, isn't actually any of its original names. This was a name that was actually chosen for us. It's a relatively new name, and up until actually the early 1900s, a lot of people refer to Ireland as Hibernia or A.U.R.A. And so to make it more access friendly for the rest of the world, our neighbours gave us the name Ireland, and our land has a particular meaning. So if you look up the word Ire, what does it actually mean? And put that together with the land, the word, it's got interesting etymology, right? So prior to that, and people were much more connected into the other true origin names of Ireland. The Irish people were more connected. We're disconnected from the name Ireland now. Ireland has become a commodity name, and it doesn't resonate with us as Irish people. That was one of the first major cut-offs for Irish culture. Little did we realise was this name being given to us, because it's not a chosen name. Irish people did not choose this name, as far as I'm fully aware. Okay, someone may stand to correct me, but I don't think so, as to how the name came about. So we were referred to as the sovereign state. Ireland had a culture that was steeped and based within sovereignty, and the idea of principality of sovereignty. And what is sovereignty? Sovereignty was based on the divine goddess principle, the divine feminine. So Ireland can be referred to by other cultures as being a deeply feminine country, and that we're often described as being very feminine people, male and female, the men and women. And some of our counterparts who would be more steeped in their masculinity in other cultures recognize that within the Irish male and female, that we tend to have more feminine aspects. So that's an interesting insight or an observation in general of the Irish sort of psyche, if you like, or the Irish vibration. But sovereignty was the principle that was based on the triple goddess. So you may already know this, so I won't actually explain too much about it, and this is information that's researchable online. So we had the triple goddess culture, and the land was incredibly important to us. We recognized this connection, a deep sacred connection into the land, and the divine feminine principle that ran through the land, how the land is deeply connected to the female. And we have then this. So sovereignty is connected to me to, first of all, queenhood and warriorship, the divine feminine principle. There's an element of royalty to it, because we have a long history of sovereignty in relation to kingship and queenship within this country. And so this brings me into the next piece to kind of bring in this together with the principle of the woman being the main guiding ruling force for the land and the culture here. And then this is ancient times, and this is deeply embedded in our psyche, it's deeply embedded within our mythology, it's deeply embedded within our Celtic culture. And the sovereignty principle was for a long time a basis of how the country was actually divided up. So an interesting part of Ireland is that we have a thing called the Celtic spiritual wheel, and this wheel consists of 5 main pieces. So you have the 4 north, south, east, west, and then you have the center, and center is considered sovereignty. So at all times that we are standing in our sovereign center, and then that's where we're operating from, our most like powerful place is to be centered. If we're out of centered, you're lapsing into either one of the other polarities. So this Celtic spiritual wheel was the basis of the land. This is like impressed onto the land. So Ireland was considered a reflection of this Celtic spiritual wheel. So we're going into the fourth cycle of mythology here, where the principle of this was established. So the kings, and it's actually called the king's cycle also, which I find also very interesting. But the sovereignty was in the centre, and we have Uisneach, which is considered the centre of Ireland. And they just recently had their Bealtaine Fire Festival for bringing in the summer energy. And so the other four provinces, so we have Ulster, Munster, Connacht and Leinster. So if you know anything about Ireland, you've probably heard of how we have these four main provinces. And that represents, of course, clearly north, south, east and west. And sovereignty in the centre. And the sovereignty is the triple goddess. All things spring from the centre. They spring from this union and connection deeply into the land. And before they were called provinces, they would have been referred to as kingdoms. And still we refer to Kerry as being the kingdom of Kerry, but you would have had the kingdom of Munster. At one point there was a couple of other like minor ones, but that was broken down by the Anglo-Saxons. So, and that's actually a map I have here that I'm going to show you. So I should say that because I'm going to put the image of that here. So this isn't, unfortunately, this was the only map that I actually could locate that I could use to be able to use it for this particular video. But so this is like a later map, which was based actually in Anglo-Norman after the kingship of Brian Boru, who was the last king of Ireland. And then this particular map that I'm showing you here was devised. So this isn't actually an accurate reflection, unfortunately, of the simplicity of what I'm talking about in relation to the five provinces. So, and if you ever go or have the pleasure of being able to go to Uisneach in for any of their celebrations or to tour Uisneach, they will tell you about originally that Ireland was a 5-province country, and Uisneach was considered, of course, like the 5th most important one, which was the sovereign, the centre. So connecting into that divine feminine principle, and that the name Eru came out of that naming as well. So for the reverence and understanding and respecting being connected to the goddess principality in Ireland was something that's deeply embedded within the culture and still is in the psyche within us, but it's been put to sleep. All kinds of things have happened in relation to that, so that's not this video. But the idea now that we think that, you know, that we've been sold, brainwashed into believing that, of course, women are weak, women, you know, should only be in the home. And I mean, there was actually law in Ireland in the time of like my mother's time where women weren't actually allowed to go out to work. Thank you, Eamon de Valera, for that. Big shill sellout that he is. Put women who would be more useful into the homes. I was just about to curse there. It really destroyed women's psychology, their well-being and their sense of self-worth. Not being allowed to work, your value only is seen within the house and bearing lots of children. That's it. So this kind of like idea of controlling the womb, owning a female's body has been a big thing in Ireland for quite some time. And a few years ago, the whole abortion thing came in here, where we voted on abortion for women's rights and all of that. Now that's a whole other thing. And of course, lots of women felt empowered by being able to have that decision, that choice being given to them. But there's still a lot of control, a lot of elements of hidden control that's actually, you know, kind of laced into that subject. But I don't want to go off of track here. Irish women have a history of being actual warriors. It's something that's like really great. You need to know this. And throughout history, there's been a long history of female warriors. So there is a warriorship that's deeply within women, and that has been kind of cultured out of us with, you know, a certain type of culture that came in, particularly after the 1950s. I think it was probably the worst ideologies really that started to come in for women. But the mythology of like the female as being a warrior, oh my god, like so much history has been rewritten. That's the thing, and I don't want to make this a long video about all of the other stuff. But if you look into all of this, like in the history of how like the Catholics, when the Catholic Church came in here and they started to rewrite history, and they started changing a lot of our mythological stories, and I'm sure a lot of important things were left out. Women, though, there's very little accounts of like genuine full-length accounts of the women, mythological women. A lot of it they'll be based around the men and the male counterparts. Some women managed to be mentioned, not in detail, but they did get a little mention. So I actually have a list of 6 warrior women. So in relation to like old mythology, where we have Cuchulainn, like the most famous warrior woman that got a mention was SCOTIAQueen. She trained Cuchulainn, he was renowned as being an amazing warrior and a fighter, but he was trained by a woman, a female warrior. Okay, we have another lady called Aoife. Can't find anything on her. She gets a bare mention. There is Nessa, who was the mother of Conor MacNessa, because queenship bestows onto the kingship. Kingship in Ireland was given by the queen, by sovereignty of the female, the divine feminine principle. So a man only became queen through a woman. And this was his custodianship of the land, that he was agreeing to be a protector and to protect and take care of the sacredness of the land, that this particular king respected the divine feminine principle that went through the land. So he would only get his kingship when he proved himself to be worthy of the kingship through his queen, his chosen queen, or a queen chosen for him. So, and this is still something that's it's relegated into myth. It's kind of lost, but there is something that's deeply embedded within culture and society, that this stuff is inside of all of us. And this is to talk to the DNA. So to the DNA carriers of Celtic blood, of Celtic wisdom. So I'm talking to not just to people who are living and born in Ireland as Irish people, like regardless of like what your cultural background is, regardless from where you are, regardless of where it is that you're based. If you're first, second, third, fourth or fifth generation of a descendant of an Irish person that's probably carrying Celtic, and I'm going to actually say more even specifically here, Milesian blood. So there's a Milesian influence as well, which were closely connected to the Celts, to more the Spanish, Iberian, French side of things, French, Spain, that part of Celtic culture and Celtic lore coming in there. So this is another video I actually do want to make, is to talk about the DNA activations that are going on around this, because it's happening quite a lot. So in my energy work with clients, I do tend to attract people who will have some kind of connection back into Celtic blood, or some kind of ancestor that is coming forward, and this is coming up quite a lot, and it is about the DNA activation. And people ask me, do they feel they want to come to Ireland, they feel they want to come here, they want to experience it. And sometimes that's necessary for some people, because there's activations going on. That's another video, that's another talk. I can talk more detail to that. because this is getting very long and I don't like doing long videos. So to keep to the point, so sovereignty, the divine feminine principle, warriorship, the Celtic spirit wheel, really important how this is reflected in Ireland and reflected in our sense of sovereignty and kingdomhood. And so this is within the genetic DNA. If you're descendant from Celtic people, Milesian, if you have traced your blood back along. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. This is not Irish specific, Irish country specific. So to lead into the sovereignty, right, so I've been connecting into Queen Meritaten Scotia. Scotia has been talking to me. She has been coming to me through energy work sessions with some people. She's coming to me in my meditations. She's coming to me in my journeys. And she comes to me with this really important message, which is for women. It's for womb holders. You have a womb, this message is for you. Scotia is encouraging us to come forward. Scotia is tired. This woman is a warrior, another warrior who should get a mention. Oh my God, I didn't mention Queen Maeve. I didn't mention Leith Lucra, who is Fionn McCool's guardian. A guardian for Fionn McCool as if he needed one. Well, he had a guardian. We have my personal favourite is Granuaile. I believe she was probably the last. I feel like after Granuaile, the superwoman warrior queen was switched off. Something happened. It's been switched off and gone. It died with her. The rebellion in Ireland died with her. So, but Granuaile is re-emerging as well. Another energy that's coming back into this land, but coming back as a healed version of herself, okay? And there's a lot of stories about Granuaile, and she was not liked for all of the wrong reasons, perhaps, and for maybe some of the right reasons. But anyways, she was a woman that lived, did her thing. So I honor her for that. But in relation to Scotia is really interesting because now we're bringing in the pharaonic Egyptian connections into Ireland as well. And as well as the Milesian, because she was married to Milesians. So her sons, her children, Hibber, being one of the most notable, which is potentially why Ireland was called Hibernia, which would have been after her son Hibber. So there's like an extensive bloodline then of kingship from Hibber. She also has another son, which is Herbermon. And I'm not too sure about his lineage or his bloodline, the descendants. I have to research that. But Hibber seems to be the most influential one. So there is a Milesian Egyptian bloodline, Celtic bloodline then, that is running through Ireland as a direct result coming from Scotia. So she's well and truly alive here. Scotia is very special because she's very strong and powerful. And she has a mission for women. And she wants women with wombs to step forward now. And yes, especially in Ireland, we need more women coming forward with their Celtic wisdom, with their Celtic spirituality, with their womb wisdom. Because a lot of information and knowledge is directly connected to the womb. And there's like a spiritual reason why men are always trying to get back into the womb. You know, there's a number of reasons for it. But like deep in the psyche, why are men always trying to get back into connection with the womb? Always. It's like never ending thing that never stops with them. But it's stopping. Things are changing. Major healing going on, people. Okay, I will say that I'm going through some major healing actually this week, which is why yesterday I was in one frame of mind, and today I actually have like a major a fury headache going on today. Yeah, fury of the Irish woman. It's real. Fury is being healed. Okay. The fury consciousness, the repression and suppression that has happened of Irish women, the Irish psyche. And this is going back to our mythology, what has been done to the inversion of the female mythology in Ireland, right down then to where it got to Granuaile, and then all of a sudden it stops. It just stops. And Granuaile was almost, they were nearly successful in writing her out of history, but it didn't happen because so many women are feeling her energy, so many women connect to her, and they feel that like warrior fighter spirit within Granuaile. She might have been a bit aggressive, which is why she wasn't liked. This is the anger, fury, what I'm talking about. So after Granuaile, anger, fury got deeply suppressed within the Irish female psyche. And there's the collective consciousness also that's part of this. So again, it's part of the collective, where we're connecting into the collective DNA of Irish women, Irish Celtic blood women, where no matter where you are or who you are. So there's a collective connection into the energy of fury. Anger, not being allowed or being able to express it, having to suppress. And so as part of my own personal healing and the healing work that I do, which I've been aware of for a long time, is part of the collective healing. And so there's like channeling of energy that happens when we're collectively doing the collective consciousness healing. So I'm not only channeling through this energy of my own personal fury that I obtained. This is bigger than me. It's always bigger than me. It's not ever just about me. It's not ever just about you. So Scotia is like saying, and she's so strong about it, because I'll tell you, I don't want to talk about this. I'm one of those women that Scotia is saying, get out there and get your work out there, put yourself out there, you know, do it with energy, and talk about your womb wisdom, talk about your knowledge, start bringing your knowledge forward and sharing it with other women. So I'm getting more and more into that zone because I'm being pushed from behind me. There's a hand there shoving me, and now I'm here trying to shove you as an authentic being to come into divine sovereignty. And which is why I'm talking about the divine feminine principle, which is why I'm talking about healing, bringing healing into this, because at the same time, we're deeply, deeply healing wounds. We're deeply healing the male and female, the masculine, feminine wounding that's in all of us, the imbalance, the wounding. And so this is being healed within us, depending on which energy it is that you need to be healed. But there is this parallel that's happening energetically, and this year is the year for transformation. This is it. So at the same time, we're deeply healing, and then on the other side, we're being elevated massively with incredible energies that are coming in and channeling. So for example, you may have noticed in April that your senses might have been really heightened in April, like your ability to channel your psychic intuitions, your dream time, and other things that you would recognize as being part of your abilities, that they were heightened in April, which also led us now into this healing component of it. So for the next, we're in May now, by the end of May, a certain amount of bodily healing is going to be tallying off the physical stuff, but there's also then going to be the manifestation of how that's going to show up for us as the change that's going to kind of be the new pathway, the new way heading into June and July. So I don't know, I was kind of thinking, I can't wait for the summer, have the idea that we're going to have fun and do loads of relaxing fun things for the summer. I've been kind of getting like intuitions that it's not going to be like that at all. There's a feeling of busyness and a busy energy coming with this summer. There's a lot of healing going on, but we're also going to be experiencing situations coming ahead of us in the next couple of months where this healing is being pushed through, manifesting into our physical lives, in situations, things that we have to deal with, people we have to deal with. And we're kind of, I don't really like using the word that we're being tested to see if we pass the test of our healing kind of thing. It's like pushing through, what's that word? I have like a vent in order to come out the other end, like a tunnel, narrow tunnel of this healing, and then we come out at the end of it. But it does test us, you know. It makes us contract, and then we expand, we contract, we expand, and we can't know what it is that we're doing, sensing or changing sometimes without that expansion and contraction. So eventually we will come out of this to the end where this healing will pan out. But like, this is the greatest year for transformation, for the deepest possible healings ever, for to reprogram yourself to those deep-seated patterns of deep programming that you may not even be conscious of, that you still have. It's going to be hard to push those out, but push those out we will. And we do it by taking care of ourselves, by allowing the healing to happen, and at the same time we're going to be very active in that healing, in how it shows up for us in our daily lives and situations, and what we have to deal with, what conversations we have to have. So this year we're not going to be sitting back so much, relaxing and having fun. There'll be a bit of that, but it won't be all of that. So now that's really it, I think. And that's a longer video than I actually hope for it to be, so maybe you're okay with a long video. I kind of don't like them going too long, but because I don't like the fact, I do like to deliver information. So thank you for listening. If you have managed to listen all the way and to gain something from what I've been talking about, I have tried my best to bring it all together, and the message from Scotia is quite clear. And at the end of this video, I am going to just leave a short part of the channel script that is a piece that I channeled through from Scotia. And I will just leave that at the end for you to be able to just take your time to actually read through it. So this isn't exclusively a message for women, because men will benefit from women becoming more seen, more heard, more listened to, and for men standing back to allow women now to come forward once again, and for men to want to start healing themselves, recognizing that healing doesn't mean that they're like not macho, that they're whatever, you know, that they're not men if they focus on their healing. This is a bigger message than that. So anyway, thank you for listening and for getting this far. I really appreciate it. My weekly vlog thing didn't quite go the way I would have hoped. I'm probably going to end up doing little batches and series of weekly vlogs, and because I've been taken up with this research and this body of work that to me is personally really important to get out into the world. But I have actually another batch of weekly vlog talks that I'm going to do as well. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. And do all the usual stuff. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. I would really greatly appreciate that.